Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys? So, is there anybody who's joining first time? Same question I'm asking every time. So, those who are joining first time, Akhilesh, have you provided the video recordings, the session recordings to the members? Is it accessible to all those who have not been able to?
Yes, sir, we are doing it, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. And the assignment folder you have shared with them, like where they have to submit all the assignments?
Sir, they are submitting assignments on the portal itself. Itself, we
Okay.
have a tab there. I'll
So
download it and share it to you, sir.
I got the first assignment folder, but I could not access the second assignment.
No,
So
no,
if you can
I'll share it to you, sir. I'll share it to you.
please share that. All right. So today we are going to start a brief discussion on how to do research. Yeah. And when we say research, how we really mean what is research, or how we really conduct the research to understand certain sort of like nuances related to our activities. Yeah, so we try to understand, or we try to get answers through some sort of like activities uh, when we conduct any research activity. Yeah. Uh, have you done any research before in terms of your social enterprise activity? Have you guys taken up any research activity before? Can we get some responses? How you are doing research? If you have done any research activity before, you go and ask people what do you want, what do you like this or not, or do you research maybe documents related to the earlier activities of maybe problem, the way it has been looked into, the way it has been solved so far. So basically, that is part of research. You basically try to understand what is the knowledge which is already present in the system and how you can possibly gain some new knowledge. You can get answers to your questions. So that is the whole premise of research in our context, that we have certain questions which need to be answered so that we can plan our activities and we can go forward in a more assured manner. Just let me know if you're able to see the slide. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. Okay. So, as per some research data which I could collect, yeah, almost like 95% of new product fail. Yeah. That means 95, which we call innovation in the market, fail because of one or the other reason. 20% of new businesses fail within first 2 years. 45% of new businesses startup don't survive the fifth year. 65% of new startups fail during the first 10 years. Yeah, so this is the status of startups. Very scary scenario that our startups are not working exceptionally good. There are a lot of names we hear about. There are unicorns, there are a lot of like success stories we come across. But this is also one of the reality that many such efforts are not able to see a long sort of like sustenance in the market. Okay? And many of them fail, more than 90% of new product. Yeah? So any new product which is coming out in the market, they have chances of failing very high. Okay? So tech startups success rate is hardly 50%. Venture backed fintech startups fail in 75% cases. Yeah. So it's a reality which is there in our present scenario regarding the new initiatives. And why they fail? Why usually those startups who are like having so much of aspiration, so much of great ideas, so many backers to take those ideas forward, including the founders. There are supporting systems. Maybe the government comes in, maybe foundation like NESCOM Foundation comes in and support ideas, or maybe venture capitalist, angel investors. All these guys, all these support system come in and they support different ideas at different level. but many of them are not able to see success. So if we go by certain statistics of like how different challenges are faced by different levels of startups. So lack of market demand is one of the biggest reason that product or services fail in the market. So market demand is very simple thing. If there are customers who are demanding your product, that means you are popular, you are successful. If there are nobody who is demanding your or who are looking for your services, then possibly you are going to fail fast. Yeah. So almost 42 to 45% startups fail because they are not able to anticipate or evaluate or understand how the market is there. We have discussed about the market that day. We talked about the total available market, the total serviceable market, and total obtainable market. TAM, SAM, SOM. It basically talks about how the market is going to be there in the given situation. And lot of like good number of like people who are not able to anticipate that demand rightly. Yeah, we talked about the economics of your idea, how your idea is going to be taken up in the market in real money terms. If it is having good number of customers who are paying the price which they really want to pay, so that means if there is a value in your product, there is going to be good demand for the product. If it is not there, then you are having a chance of failing in your startup. So that way, keep an eye on like deeper sort of like understanding about what is going to be the market of your product and how big is the market and how it is going to possibly give you money or success. Running out of cash. So management of cash is the problem for a lot of people. They don't manage, they don't anticipate how money is going to be utilized, money is going to be generated, money is to be taken from the market or to be taken from the banking systems or maybe from your sort of like peers or maybe family members, how they're going to buy the idea. Many times it happens that and they're not able to scale their product or services in a right manner. So in those scenarios, people find it difficult to understand how money actually plays its own game in the startup scenario. Many times it happens like people have a lot of like cash or money in their bank accounts. They have got good funding, but they don't know how to spend it rightly. Sometimes they spend it too early, and then later stage of it, they are facing problems because they are needing more cash to possibly support the scaling up or support the manpower or maybe get more sort of like money from for the raw materials or production, or sometimes their money is not coming back from the market for products which they have already sold in the market. So usual time of like 45 days escalates to 90 days, and because of that 45 days of extra time which is going to be taken for money to come back in rotation, you are starved of money and you are not able to scale or you are not able to continuously produce. So this cash crunch is one of the biggest problems. Wrong team or leadership, poor product market fit. Again, matter of like deeper research. What is the right market fit product? Yeah, what is the product which is going to get into the market in right way? Yeah, when you position yourself, you see that there is a market cluttered in and around you, and you try to find out a spot where there is a space for you. Yeah, there is a good number of customer who is not either going to the product previous to that or maybe willing to take a product which is next to you, and that is the spot you have to always keep finding. That is basically the market fit. Yeah, if you're rightly there into the market with right pricing, with right sort of like communication, right way of like positioning in terms of pricing and all, you will be able to see that there is a great success ahead. Yeah. If that fit is complicated, then you will find that you are struggling a lot to promote or to acquire customers and all. And competitive pressure, failure to pivot. Yeah, failure to pivot means you have to make quick decisions. If you're realizing that product is not working out, can you bring in change? Can you allow certain new things to be taken up? Instead of like relying on your own idea, you start looking into the feedbacks and modify your idea, correct your approach to taking that product forward. And that lack of pivot is one of the crucial reasons that people are not able to move further. Yeah, legal regulatory issues, poor marketing and sales execution, scaling up challenges, or external factors like environmental factor. There is too much of rain in Ahmedabad, which usually doesn't happen. Yeah. Or maybe there is a very harsh summer and nobody is like willing to take products which are not very well suited in the summer season. Or maybe government has come up with some regulation and your product is finding it difficult to counter. Or the external factors which are maybe environmental, political, social or something. So that way startups fail many times in different domains or different sort of like areas because of the challenge of they have not studied the scenario rightly. Yeah. As I have mentioned, this is a process of designing. Yeah. The process is very simply divided in two parts. One is the research part, and second is the execution part. The research part, design extensively works on the research activity. And research is not just a straight away going out, talking to two people, coming back and saying, okay, there is a product requirement. So this is not the way, but getting more deeper into research in terms of like understanding the mindset of people, understanding the multidisciplinarity of like how different things exist in given situation. So how a product and its competition are having a play between them. So in those scenarios, research more deeper in terms of understanding the psyche, understanding the need of the customer, looking into the market possibilities, looking into the nature of market, competition, the supporting systems like government or environment and other factors, societal sort of like situations. All these complex things are need to be studied in a right sort of like manner, which is basically right way of like using research tools, and then leading to some creative insights. So insights which are unique, which are different than what other people are doing so far. So that way, design forms a very important part of like research activity in the first phase, which gives you a general problem. You start with a general problem and you get to a very specific problem, which is identified through your insights. So that way, research is a very important sort of like milestone of your entrepreneurial journey. Yeah. And I'm going to talk about how this first phase of it is going to be so crucial when we are looking into different aspect of it. Yep. Okay. Are you able to see the annotation? It is not visible to me. Yep. Okay. Is this the purpose? Okay, guys, please remove this, otherwise we'll not be able to move forward. Sat Shri Ram, you have to stop it. All right.
You can continue. I remove him.
I'm resharing this so that it will go away. Yep. Okay. So are you able to see the screen? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So idea or objective of research is basically, so I was talking about how we are looking into the first part of the activity, which is more deeper in terms of understanding or knowing the answers for the questions which you have in your mind. Okay? Your questions are very critical in terms of understanding why you are doing this activity. If you have a social problem, let's say a problem which you have taken up in early situations, I will be able to recall some of the problems, like problem of maybe the visor, the foggy visors. And if you have questions and right questions in your mind, or you have defined your problem rightly, then possibly you will be able to research about it in a right manner. So basic questions will arise: why fogging happens, how fogging affects our vision, how fogging is so critical in driving conditions, or how defogging mechanisms are there. These are the questions, yeah? And you do research around this. So when you talk about fogging situation, you come across answers like fogging cannot be avoided because it is all happening because of the closed environment and because of our breathing, and the moisture coming out of our breath is basically making the fogging situation. So that way your first question answers are very simple, that fogging cannot be avoided. Fogging cannot be eliminated easily. Second question, if we have to eliminate, how you are going to do it? There are technologies, maybe dehumidifiers, or maybe right ventilation, or maybe right type of glasses which will not attract moisture, or maybe a circulation system of air could possibly be the answers. Third answers could be, what is the market for it? Yeah. So you answer those questions. Who is the customer? These are the questions you have to answer. And that is how your whole research activity within your startup journey will have a mix of multiple questions. Yeah. And those questions will keep coming back to you in different formation. So maybe user versus market question will emerge and you have to answer to it. At one time, user versus technology question will come and you have to answer. At one time, maybe the factors related to technology and the price will come and you have to answer to it. So that way, there are different ways that you will come across different type of questions, and those questions need to be researched or answered by doing a right research. So that is the whole objective of doing this activity. And generally, we usually look at things which are apparent. The conscious mind basically respond in a very straightforward manner. If you ask me how you're feeling, I'll say good. If you ask me some deeper question, okay, how was my day? Then possibly I'll have some answers and you will be able to understand how I'm feeling right now. If you really want to feel or understand how is my larger sort of like state of mind, then you have to ask some different questions. Okay? And those questions need to be answered in a very different sort of like tricky manner. And many times those answers are coming from your subconscious mind. Yeah? So maybe the state of mind or maybe the background conditions or maybe the influencing factors which are affecting my approach or my way of doing things will be deciding how any answers will come. Yeah. So in case of maybe defogger in a helmet scenario or helmet sort of like situation, the bigger deeper question will be whether I'm comfortable with helmet or not. Yeah. Or why do I use helmet otherwise? What is the value of helmet? Let's say if it is meant for beyond safety related concerns. So that way you have to ask different type of questions to get your answers. So knowing the social conditions, beliefs, perceptions, motivations, opinion of people is the objective of doing your research. Gaining deeper understanding of human issues and their behaviors. So that is one of the idea, one of the approach that we try to look into. Okay. Varun need to be checked. Akhilesh, please. Yep. So there are approaches, very simple approaches. Lot of time it happens that one has to look into the existing scenario, existing data, or existing situations which are present or prevailing in present situation. Yeah, that is basically called secondary research or the desk research. Hope you have done extensive amount of research. I think some of you, Prithviraj, if you are available here, what type of secondary research you have done? Yours is the helmet visor problem.
Hi, sir. It's not mine. I did that athlete circle one.
Okay, Sandeep. Whose problem was helmet visor? Prithviraj, what was your problem?
Sir, mine was that athlete visibility exposure
Which one?
platform. Athlete visibility, sir.
Okay. Not able to get you.
A networking platform for
Okay,
athletes.
I got it. Yeah, athlete visibility. So athletes who are not able to present themselves rightly. Okay, what
Fine.
secondary research you have done so far, Prithviraj, if you can share with us.
So as for
The
research,
secondary data.
I saw many places where with problems like finding the solution could be providing tournament opportunities to athletes. It could be getting athletes connected to coaches. So there were so many problems in that. So what I did was I built a form, a Google form type of one, and I distributed among my athlete friends.
Okay, so
So
my point is when you when you say secondary data or secondary research, it is the idea of like looking into the scenario which is already existing in the market. So let's say in terms of athletes visibility, a very strong secondary data would be coming from the research activities or the newspaper informations or maybe government resources that how different type of athletes are present in the country. So maybe a secondary data will tell you that these are the common sports which are having large number of athletes. One is basically the cricket or maybe high energy sports like volleyball, football, maybe basketball is lesser in India, but badminton. So you can say that okay, these many sort of like players or athletes, or maybe if you just look into athletics as a game, you will talk about different forms of games which are already existing, and there are enthusiasts who are basically participating in all these games. So secondary data will tell you about the achievers and the gainers and maybe failure stories which are already documented. That is basically the secondary research. When you come across those data, you will realize that there is a gap between what is really a scenario in present situation and how possibly it can be improved or where the challenges basically lie. And by analyzing that, you will be assured that there is a problem which is already existing in the system. Yep. So for that purpose, you do a secondary research. So let's say if you're saying that, okay, there are almost like every year 1 lakh athletes who are coming into the market seeking a professional training and trying to achieve something. Out of them, only 500 are those who are able to reach to a national or international level event. Maybe 5,000 or so are there competing in national level games or national level events. And remaining, let's say 90,000 or maybe 80,000 are usually not able to find a right sort of like placement, job, or opportunity to present their caliber. So this 90,000 figure, the document which is saying that there is a lack of like right opportunity, right vision, visibility, right sort of like recognition, is your secondary data to establish that there is a problem lying. Yep. Then other data could be, you will compare it with international scenario, how China is supporting all different forms of uh, forms of games and athletics, let's say if a specialized sort of like sport, how China is supporting or how European different countries scenarios are there and how the sports has been supported by maybe different agencies and how a right type of scenario is present in some of those countries. Could be your secondary data to establish that there is a problem in India and that problem need to be resolved. Yeah. That is the larger purpose of doing a secondary research, that you establish your problem rightly into a given situation. This is the data which is usually coming from existing data available in your libraries, available in your research reports, sometimes in papers, journals, which are working in these areas. And if I just quickly do a survey or search, yeah. I will come across a lot of like data which will be talking about barriers to growth, understanding the challenges faced by athletics, the problem of Indian sports ecosystem one. There is a, I'll just stop sharing this and I'll show you this the outcome. Yep. This is the secondary data which is showing me outcome of how the information is available in the given situation. These are the These are the secondary data which is available with us. Yeah, the problems in Indian sports ecosystem, the Indian Olympics, why the world's most populous country, CNN's approach, punches below its weight at the Olympics. Yeah. Or empowering India's athletes in career transition. So Prithviraj, if you hope you have done this research. Have you done this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Starting, I did this, and
So
that's why I took
this
this
is
problem.
mostly the secondary data. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ravi Kapoor.
మాట్లాడండి సార్.
All right, so Prithviraj, this is what I want to share with all, that this is how you basically look into the existing knowledge which is helping us to understand whether our problem is really relevant or not. If you find that problem is very much relevant, you will be confident that it should be taken forward in whichever way you are planning to take it. Yeah. So existing data comes from the libraries or the publishing sort of like published informations from journals or books. Data obtained from already filled surveys. There are a lot of surveys, a lot of agencies working on it. The government and non-government agencies provide a lot of data. Public libraries provide, educational institute provide a lot of data. So that way data is available all across us. Yeah, but we have to use it in right sort of like manner. The benefit of secondary research, and it's very, very critical, very, very important research, and you should be doing this first before moving forward, is to help in identifying the gap in existing scenario. So what is something which is not touched upon? If problem is already solved, then you will be able to get answers on the secondary information source itself. But if those answers are not coming in, then that way there is a possibility that you should take up that problem forward. Yeah. It helps in mapping the outcome of scope of work. Yeah. And it is already some bit of work done for you. So secondary data is basically somebody is working for you. That person or those people are basically trying to help you in terms of providing those information in a right manner. Yeah. So that is the whole objective, that secondary data is to be used to understand that how much work is already done there. Data is already accessible, and it's cost effective and quick. So you should make use of data. Otherwise, you will have to go on your own, research on your own, and possibly collect that data or identify that data by too much of hard work and too much of investment. It is precise and well worked. So because it is controlled, because newspapers are not able to publish anything easily, or maybe research journals will have stringent processes of publishing information. So that way data is very, very well assured. So that data is already worked out and well worked. So that way it's not a difficulty in terms of like getting assurance on information which is coming from there. Okay. Secondary data, the key factors to be considered. What you should really consider in secondary data. You should be sure that what information you really want. So if you are typing like this statement, athletes visibility in India, the deeper challenges, this is one way of like looking into how you are questioning your existing data system. Yeah. And this questioning will give you certain type of responses. But there is possibility that you can question it in different sort of like manner. Yeah.
ఏమైంది సార్ మధ్యలో పోతారు? సార్ వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్ సార్?
Sorry, there was some issue. So that way, questioning is also very, very critical. That how you are basically searching data in the given space. How much data you should collect? There is endless information available in secondary resource. You cannot go to all libraries, you cannot go to all resources and then keep reading all the data in one go. So there has to be a limitation, and you have to be very precise in terms of what data you should really look into. Data which is not relevant should be avoided all the time. Yeah. Authenticity and limitation of time of data collection. Yeah. So the data should be authenticated. It should not be that it is published in some information source and you are just relying on that source and making use of that data. Maybe a lot of time there are fake news. A lot of time people are just writing about it, but they don't have any knowledge or authenticity about it. So that way, you should avoid that type of situation, and you should avoid that data. Relevance of collected data with overall research plan is very important, and how you are going to analyze the data which you have collected is also to be considered. Yeah. And then you basically look for the answers which will help you in terms of how you go forward. Then there are two methods which are very common. Once you have collected your data and once you have analyzed your secondary data, the methods are basically quantitative method or qualitative methods of research. Yeah. Quantitative method, most of us, those who are like using internet, must be coming across surveys which are asking certain type of questions. Have you, do you have a maybe music system at home, or are you using a earplug or what is called earbuds? So maybe somebody is surveying, asking you what type of earbuds you are using, whether it is whether it is a sound cancellation earbud, or maybe somebody will say that, do you look for the battery life? Do you look for the sound quality? Do you want to pay 5,000 rupees? These are the secondary these are the questionnaires, quantitative approaches which are taken up by many researchers or many startups to understand what type of mindset people have in terms of using certain type of products. So quantitative approach is basically when you collect data in quantity, you want to quantify the responses, and those quantified responses are giving you certain type of insights. Yeah, so quantitative research is basically by filling up survey forms, reaching out to 1,000 number of people or 100 number of people, asking them to respond to certain questions, putting all the data into Excel sheet, and then trying to see different type of interpretation out of it by mapping or by making charts or by putting them into graphs or something. You say that, okay, 50% people like black color earpods, or maybe 20% people are more focused around battery life, or maybe 10% people are more concerned about sound quality against the price of the earpods, or maybe 5% people or 20% people want good quality sound irrespective of what is the price of it, if it is just below 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. So that way those responses will be basically quantitative responses, which will give you an idea that how many percentage of people prefer certain type of approach. Yeah. This method is very easy otherwise, because you can float your survey, you can ask people to fill up the forms, you can ask them to write answers to the questions which you are asking, and then putting all the information into Excel sheet in a quantifiable manner, and you will get some responses. So many times quantitative analysis also go deeper in terms of statistical analysis of data, in terms of how deviations are there, or how maybe certain type of clusters forming in different groups, and how you can possibly make use of that data. So that way secondary research is a very common research done by a lot of marketing agencies, a lot of like corporations take up this research approach to understand what their customers are thinking about certain things. So quantitative research gives you an idea, and these are some of the points which I'm not specifically referring to, but will give you, and I'll show you some examples of it. So quantitative research will give you an idea about how in large number of responses you will be able to make some meanings out of responses. Yeah. Or maybe analysis will give you certain type of clear idea about how many people really want your approach or your idea to be taken forward. The challenges, the selection of topic, approaches, tools, what type of questions you are asking is very, very critical. Many times it happens, and you must have experienced when you are filling up forms. Some forms are too lengthy, some forms are too complicated, some questions are not clear, some questions are uh, sometimes incomplete or not relevant to the topic which you are basically looking forward to, the responses. Yeah, so that way, clarity of topic, clarity of selection of right questions is very, very important. Identification and getting the target responses. It's very difficult sometimes to reach out to, let's say, 500 people to get a response for your question or questionnaire. And reaching out sometimes take too much of time, too much of energy. Sometimes interpretation of data becomes very complicated. Sometimes you are not able to comprehend all the information in right manner. You are not able to analyze it. So these are the challenges of quantitative research. Sometimes it happens that you are the one who is understanding the questionnaire, but your other team members are not rightly aligned with the idea, and they're not collecting or recording the data in the right manner. So that way, quantitative brings in a lot of challenges also as a research method. Finally, the presentation of research findings are also very important. How you present it. If let's say you have to present it to a group of investors or group of maybe responders or maybe somebody who is going to take a call on your outcome. So that way, presentation of research finding is also a very big challenge when it comes to quantitative research. Then comes then comes the qualitative research, which is basically around understanding how qualitative data should be collected. Yeah. So qualitative data is basically looking into how qualitative responses are going to be. A simple example in terms of qualitative response in helmets or maybe athletes' visibility. Athlete would possibly be filling a survey form in more detailed manner in terms of like what sports you follow, what type of aspirations you have, what you really want to become. Can you name some idols or maybe inspirations in the given field? Maybe responses regarding what type of challenges you are facing in present system and all. Yeah. Qualitative response will be more personal, yeah, more deeper in terms of understanding what type of mindset they have. You can ask them series of questions which are related to their personal understanding of the sport, why you have taken up sport, what is your final sort of like expectation from the sport. Do you think that this is more because of passion or more because of certain other factors that you have taken up this sport? So that way, a lot of like time people give you responses which are very personal, which are very deeper, or you sometimes make meaning out of them because you are understanding what is happening in the conversation and you start making meaning out of it. It's more of a qualitative response, and those qualitative responses are many times more deeper and coming from the heart of the responders. Yeah, it is not just a response because you have asked a question, but many times they think about it and they sometimes take time to respond to it, and the responders sometimes give you answers which are more meaningful in terms of understanding their situation. In design, we call this as empathetic sort of like approach. Yeah? When we say that we are trying to connect with the user, we are becoming or we are coming more closer to the responders and trying to understand their problems by looking into the situation, by looking into a lot of like other factors. So that those responses will give answers which are more critical for your journey forward. Yeah? And that way qualitative responses becomes very, very important when it comes to knowing the deeper challenges in the problem. Yeah. Qualitative responses are complicated because they require more time, they require more expertise, they require you to invest more energy in terms of finding responder to maybe catch hold of good number of people who are responding to your answers. Sometimes people are not interested, sometimes people are not responding in full sort of like capacity or with full confidence. And that way qualitative becomes more complicated or more difficult to conduct. But if you are able to get qualitative response, then you are basically reaching very closer to what you really want to have in your questions. Yeah. There is a method which is called mixed method approach, which encompasses both methods. Do some amount of quantitative and do some amount of qualitative research. So that way, by mixing two methods, you will be able to get a large number of response on general questions and more specific response on specific questions, which are more deeper. Yeah. I'll give you one example of like let's say helmet users. Yeah. There is a challenge, and we are not talking about helmet visor, but this example is basically helmet usage. You must have come across, and many of you might not be interested in wearing helmet because of the reasons of complications of using helmet. A lot of people feel it is cumbersome to wear, uncomfortable in summers, more claustrophobic and all. Many times people say that okay, carrying helmet is more bigger headache than wearing it. Where to keep, where to store it. If it is costly, then you have to take care of it. And it should not get stashed or it should not be lost or something like that. Yeah. So there is a second reason that carrying or handling of helmet is a challenge. Third is like maintenance of helmet, because after some time you need to wash it or you need to get it cleaned rightly, professionally. Fourth reason could be it's costly, and if you are losing helmet one after other, then you will not be able to purchase. Fifth is like some people are more conscious about their visibility outside. Nobody recognizes you if you are wearing a helmet. If you are having a swanky bike or you are driving very passionately, nobody recognizes that you are the one who is driving this vehicle. Yep. If you have a fancy sort of like bike, and possibly wearing helmet will possibly take away some of the charm. Yeah, so that way a lot of reasons people don't want to use helmet. Some people don't want to use it because some feel that it is causing hair losses or maybe loss of hairstyle. Could also be a response when you're surveying. Yeah. So understanding why people are not using helmet in Indian conditions. And there is a case study of like even Thailand, these images which are coming from Thai sort of like research, that how to make people use helmet and how to make right helmets which are usable, acceptable by the user. So you elaborate your problem, why you really want to have helmet users to come into picture. How helmet usage is to be understood as a problem is the first question, which you have already done as a problem definition activity. Yeah. So when you are trying to define your problem, you are saying that two-wheeler accidents and understanding importance of role of helmet usage in road safety. This is your problem statement, let's say, a vague problem statement, yeah, which I have derived here. It says the first approach should be the objective of doing this research or objective of finding the right sort of like answers in the given question. The two-wheeler accidents and understanding importance of role of helmet usage in the road safety. What is the context here? This is the first sort of like query which you are going to solve. Okay? The context. Then comes the context of the scenarios which are in and around the situation. Present scenario. So the situation in and around, like what type of road scenarios, what type of environmental conditions, what type of users who are using helmet or not using helmet, defining the key questions like challenges related to helmets, and way to improve usage is basically the premise of your question, your research. And when you look into this, then your question becomes more relevant that two-wheeler accidents and understanding importance of role of helmet is basically answered through these different contexts. Yep. Moving forward, when you define the context is defined by the user first. So who is going to be the bike rider or who is going to be the policeman who is basically enforcing the helmet usage? Is the basic context of user. Another users are maybe government agencies or maybe NGOs who are trying to push this idea, or maybe researchers who are looking into helmet design or helmet implementation or something like that. Then geographic locations. Not all the situations are like problematic. You will find that some locations in the country are very prone to maybe or very friendly to helmets, but other regions are very hostile and they're not using helmet. Like one of the good example is Gujarat. You will find very few helmet users, even though there is a good enforcement, the government's effort is high, but people don't find it comfortable and they don't use it. Or like scenario of Mumbai, where because of some protest and all, people could get only the bike driver or the driver of the two-wheeler driver will only be enforced to wear helmet, whereas the pillion rider is not enforced. Contrary to the scenario where in Delhi, you will find that everybody who is sitting in the vehicle has to wear helmet in a two-wheeler. So that way, geographic locations and their conditions, like how the environment, how the enforcement, how the law and local sort of like contexts are there, need to be established in given situation. Then you can look into the personal choices, how people behave in given different situations, and how their choices are deciding whether they want to wear helmet or not. And you will find a lot of like issues related to behavior, related to ergonomics, related to other different conditions. Then you can also look into the context by looking into manufacturers who are present in the market, those who are making branded ISI mark or maybe un-ISI marked non-branded and very cheaper sort of like helmets. So that way you will find range of helmets present in the market. You can segregate them by pricing or manufacturers or brands or maybe different availabilities and all. Okay. Then other contexts is like alternatives. Some people try to use cricket helmet as a helmet. Some people try to use construction helmet as a helmet. That also forms your context in terms of like what type of helmets are already present in the market. Okay. So you may look into those aspects also and how you can possibly complement those by providing a right sort of like system. Then next comes the scenario in terms of the domain actors. Actors means the influencing factors which are basically influencing the scenario. The number of accidents in given situation, which is the prime sort of like reason that government is active and government is pushing for it, and they want that less number of accidents should be there, less number of head injuries should be there, and less number of death or long-term sort of like challenges should be there. So that way, the domain is decided by all looking into all these factors. Helmet related regulations, range of regulations are there. You will be fined, you will be banned second time if you are found not wearing helmet. To the level of like fine, 100 rupee, 200 rupee, 500 rupee, 1000 rupee fine. Different level of fines are also there, which are basically deterring people to avoid helmets. Challenges faced by the users and scenarios. There are variety of challenges, and you can look into those when you are doing research. Initiatives and interventions. What all have been taken by different agencies and how it has been enforced in given situation. So there are a lot of time road safety week. Sometimes there is a drive for catching those offenders. Sometimes there are philanthropic activities and people are distributing helmets. Sometimes there are different slogans or maybe competitions or maybe initiatives to promote awareness. So that way there are different type of situations which can be possibly look into scenarios. Who are the users in given situation? When you are doing research, I'm talking about how you identify different agencies or different actors in given situation. And in this scenario, you have to basically take care of all the elements. Just don't feel comfortable that you have an idea and some people have responded to you saying this is a great idea, you should go ahead. Yeah. Just verify by following all these criteria. Yeah. So that is the purpose of this discussion. So look into who are the users. First user is the rider of two-wheeler, who's basically wearing the helmet. Then agencies, traffic police, policymakers, NGOs. Then manufacturers, certifying agencies. Then lawmakers or regulation makers or enforcement agencies. Then possibly institutions, researchers and all who are behind this idea of like looking into the data and finding right ways to do it. Then what type of questions will emerge when you are doing all these research? What type of questions you really want to be answered? Yeah. The basic questions, user-based, one will be how users see the use of helmet in given situation. You need to go and ask, what do you mean by helmet? What is definition of helmet for you? Do you see it as a protective sort of like gear, or do you see as a piece of like wearable material? Yeah, both the meanings have very different connotations, and
You
you
don't
have to
know.
be very sure about what meaning actual users are making out of it. Some people see that they are forced to use it, and some people see that they are comfortable using helmet, and both have different challenges and different issues. What challenges are faced by users while using helmet? So you can look into those aspects. People will give you a lot of answers if you just go around and you ask them what should be the challenges of what are the challenges of the using helmet. The response will be overwhelming. Why helmet usage is such a big issue for riders? Just ask them questions and then they will also give you a lot of answers. What makes them not use helmet? Yeah, you have to not only do the activity of maybe looking into asking them certain questions, but you also have to observe what people are doing, how they are behaving, how they are holding helmet, why they are keeping it on the bike handle, why they are not wearing it. These are the different scenarios which you can observe, you can ask them to fill up a form, or you can possibly make them do some exercise and try to see how they respond to it. Then looking into enforcement agencies, what are their challenges, what are their issues, what they really want, how they want to go for it, how they really want it to happen, what are the ideal scenarios they are imagining as an enforcement agency, and how you can achieve that. Are the key questions which you can ask. You can ask questions to the manufacturers. What is their idea of making helmet? How many of them really want to make it for profit making? How many of them are really concerned about the safety of users? How many of them really follow the basic standards, and how many of them really go for the look, feel, or maybe some other factors? Could be the questions which you can ask. Here, how people are using it. You can look into the locations, traffic scenarios, traffic junctions, police stations, checkpoints. These are the locations where you can look into. You can look into the vehicles, their personal spaces, settings, how people hold helmet, how people wear it, how people store it in their vehicle. With new sort of like two-wheelers, you will find that scooter makers are very prominently highlight that there are storage space for helmet. Yeah. A problem in storage. So that way you can look into how big a problem of storage and all. Then practices, behavior constraints, input for further research will basically be the idea of looking into all these things. So maybe you can go for the questionnaire. Yeah, questionnaire could be very simple. So basically you can go for, you can possibly skip this and we can look into more details on like how questions should be designed. And you can make questionnaires. Let's say you're going for a questionnaire. If you're going for user research and trying to understand how users are going to respond to certain things, a questionnaire could be a good approach. And questionnaire could start with a demographic question. It can start with open-ended questions, dichotomous questions, which are basically telling you yes or no sort of like answers, or multiple type of questions, multiple choice of question. You can say that, okay, you prefer in which all seasons. You will find that 2 or 3 answers. You prefer which brand of helmets? People will say, okay, Ferrari branded, or maybe some other local Indian brands, or maybe some special brands or special designs. So that way you can ask multiple type of questions. You can ask Likert scale questions. You can say rating, which one is better, which one is lesser, in what intensity you like it, in what intensity you dislike certain things. Could be the type of questions you can ask. You can ask drop-down menus. You must have seen this, and Google Forms are very good. Or SurveyMonkey is a good way to ask those type of questions. And you can make those questions in a drop-down, or image choice questions, or click map questions. And that type of questions you can ask basically through survey. So you can have multiple type of questions when we are discussing that what type of questions we are going to really ask different people. So questions could be asked in terms of like how you are going to be in different situations. Here are the questions which we are going to ask. Just a moment. Yeah. So these questions can be asked in the form of questionnaires. Yeah. And I'm talking about the questionnaires, how they can be designed. So exclusive questions, which are very specialized, very specific questions. Yeah. Avoiding related or experienced respondents. Recruitment questions, where you are seeing that certain people should fall into it. So if let's say recruitment question will be in terms of like exclusion question will be something which will say that I am not fulfilling this requirement, then I should be kicked out. So first question, do you ride a bike? And I say no, I don't ride a bike. I'm excluded from the question. And I don't have to fill up all the form and trouble you by giving all those answers. So exclusion questions are basically taking out people who are not relevant. Recruitment questions are those which make someone eligible in different categories. So you will ask, do you ride a bike? Yes. Do you use helmet? Yes. Then this is a recruitment question. If I say no, then it's a recruitment question for some other category. That why I don't wear helmet, or what type of reasons are there not to wear helmet at all. Then screening questions, you filter out things. You say that, okay, these question respondents will go in this section, the other respondents will go in other section. So you will say, are you a user or are you a police agency? If I say police agency, then my questions will change after that. If I say I am a user, then questions will change after that. If I say I am an NGO who is basically promote the idea of like using helmet, then I get into some other filtering sort of like situation. Then main questions, which will be very specific to your purpose. Yeah, it will say what type of helmet you use, what are your challenges, in which conditions you don't use helmet, what type of helmet you prefer in different situations. Do you also carry second helmet if you're riding a bike and knowing that your friend may join you? Do you give importance to helmet when it comes to road safety? Will you prefer riding a bike if you don't have a helmet? You get these main questions answered in a very specific manner, and you will come to know that what is the response of any given user in different situations. Yeah. So main question, and then comes the closing question. You say that, okay, your questionnaire is getting completed. You would like to ask, okay, do you have any suggestions to improve helmet? This is an open-ended question, which is closing question. You will say, okay, if there is a next survey coming in, will you be interested in going for that? It's a closing question. Or you will say, okay, helmets are very important. Thank you for contributing. And would you like to possibly provide some more responses? There's a closing sort of like response you're trying to take. Yeah. So different type of questionnaire structures decide the information which is required when you're making a questionnaire. Be very specific about how you really want to have your survey form. Surveys are very, very critical. Guys, I'm stopping here
Sir?
and asking you.
Excuse me, sir.
Vamsi, you're saying
Hallelujah
something.
from Momji.
Alright, so surveys are very common sort of like approaches in our research, and most of
Hallelujah.
people go for surveys. Yeah, so in those scenarios, please keep in mind that how you design your survey questions. Yeah, so being conscious about what type of information you're really seeking from your respondents is the first part of your survey making. Note down what type of responses are really required, critical in your research activity, and put them as a key sort of like drivers in your survey activity. Define the target respondents. If you are seeing that bike riders who are driving in the city, or bike riders who are riding on the outskirts of city, or bike riders in the rural situations, are the target respondents. If you are asking right people, right questions, then possibly you'll get right answers. Choose the method of reaching out to them. Will you go online survey? Will you go paper survey? Will you go personally to them and ask them to fill up a form? Or will you on their behalf fill up the form? Yep. So those are the ways of like reaching out to target audiences. And every method makes a difference, yeah, in given situation. Decide on question content. What type of contents are going to be there in question? Are you going to make it easier? Are you going to be more serious? Are you going to be asking very specific questions? You will have questions in variety so that people are not finding it boring. So that way questionnaires make a great difference if they are engaging and if they are appropriate according to the audience requirement. Yeah. Many times in our situation, we do a lot of like surveys, and many times we try to see, depending on the nature of the respondents, we make it more interesting. So many times those people who are not able to write lengthy answers, we give them images. We give them bullet points. We give them answers and ask them to choose from those answers. Or sometimes we ask them to do certain activities in the given survey form by drawing or making or picking certain 2 or 3 different type of choices things. Yeah. So that way, decide the content of it. Put questions into meaningful order. Order of questionnaire is very important. You should not be asking, okay, tell me about your name, your date of birth, and then you ask for the license information. Not required. Even date of birth might not be required. Yeah. And then asking for, do you have a bike and do you have a helmet and what design of helmet and all, and then you suddenly go back to what model of bike and all, is the wrong answer sequencing. Yeah. So keep your questions in very meaningful order. People should find that, okay, one section is over, now second section is about something else. Third section is more specific about certain things. That way the ordering of or formatting is required. Check the length of questionnaire. It should not be too lengthy, it should not be too short also. Because you are not going to get this respondent again. That respondent, there is a very less possibility that this respondent is going to respond to you immediately if you request them again. Yeah. So that way, it should not be too short and too lengthy also. Pre-test your questionnaire. Before you go for the launch of your questionnaire, you just test it with your friends or known people or sample organization, sample users. You will get an idea whether questionnaire is going to work or not. Yeah. And then develop a final survey form, which is a standard large-scale survey sort of like approach. Then comes, so here again in same situations, you will possibly be going for the two-wheeler riders response, collecting large number of responses you will be needing. You will possibly be taking a collective view of usage and challenges of users. So this is going to be the objective of two-wheeler users. And then looking into common issues, looking into the demographic, economic categories and all, you will be basically looking into all these areas in two-wheeler survey, two-wheeler user survey. So then there are multiple other methods which can be used. Apart from this, you can do an interview. Interview is a very common sort of like approach where we, instead of going for a survey, which is more quantitative approach, we rely on qualitative approach of interviewing. Interview is basically talking to some people in more formal or informal manner. Yeah. And that is basically to understand what they really want to share with us. Many answers could not be collected in the questionnaire format. In those scenarios, you get into a discussion mode. You ask certain questions and look for the response. In between, you also ask certain questions which are not specific to that discussion, but you try to get answers to them to back your idea. And that way, interview is very helpful in terms of looking into how somebody think about given situation and how they respond to it. Yeah. So interview give you a deeper understanding of human aspect of research topic, comfort or safety concerns, maybe in our case, get response on complex topics like challenges of using helmet. So interviews will be basically giving you answers in those areas. Many people will tell you about their personal experiences, what they felt about, or how they maybe came across certain experiences when they were using helmets. It's very difficult to get collected into survey forms. Understanding user behavior in given situation and looking into the situation of like weather, ergonomic, or maybe perception of brand or comfort and all those type of factors. And then you can possibly discuss with them in your own sort of like manner. So maybe formal, informal, friendlier manner, you can discuss with the responders and get more critical answers from the response. So benefit of and limitation of interviews, both I would say. Varied responses. So sometimes it's a benefit because you get a lot of like responses and you have to you have opportunity to look into a lot of possibilities. But those varied responses are also not very specific, and sometimes you are not able to catch hold of all the information which is coming out from interviews. So be careful when you are going for interview. Don't go too broad. Don't start asking about their other factors which are not relevant. You start getting answers and you are getting confused for your core questions. Lack of correlation. One interviewer is not relatable to the other one. Many times it happens, and you are not able to build a relationship between these two interviewees. So interview gives you a good response, but sometimes it is not relatable. That two people or multiple people are not coming on same platform in terms of their responses. Structural dissimilarity, because you can go haywire. Sometimes you are getting too engaged with the interviewee and you are asking too many questions and you are finding it more relevant. In other case, you are not finding a match or a good response coming in. And those two responses will have multiple dissimilarities. And this is going to create a problem when you are analyzing data. Difficulty in interpretation and standard frame. So same problem, like if it is a standard frame in terms of helmet challenges, one person has given you 3 challenges and one has given 10 challenges. And now you have to build a correlation between these two responses. And if there are, let's say 50 responses or 20 responses, then you will not be able to basically understand what is happening in this if it is not in a standard frame. It do not help in terms of future prediction many times. And you have to make meaning out of certain ideas which are emerging from your responses. Yeah. So interviews should be done in a right sort of like manner by putting your objective very clear, why you're doing interview, why you're not doing a survey, or maybe observation or some other form of like research. There has to be a guide, because if you're not interviewing and somebody else is interviewing, then that person should also be able to carry out that same level of like interview without you. It happens mostly in scenarios when you are going in a large number of respondents. So your co-founder will also be going and interviewing people, yeah, talking to them, checking with them, and there has to be a guide between the interviewee or interviewer and interviewee both. Yeah. So participant identification and selection, you should prepare for it. Yeah. So basically, what type of profiles or what type of information you really want to collect. Don't ask for bank details if it is not relevant. Don't ask for home addresses if it is not relevant. Don't ask for maybe certain type of choices if it is not relevant to your question. Yeah. Ask for right information which is relevant to you. Maybe age is good instead of date of birth. Or maybe information about location is good instead of getting a full address. Yeah, many times people don't want to respond to that. So scheduling, how you are going to schedule it, how you are going to approach it, whether you will start with a loose conversation or maybe ice-breaking methods, or maybe you are going to straight away jump on the question number 1. Okay, hello, I'm this. I want to ask you my first question. Yeah, this could be the approach when you are going for a serious interview. Yeah. Then how you are capturing your interview data. Are you going to record on mobile, or are you going to capture on video? Or you are going to just note down in your notepad, or you are going to give them a form and they will write about it, or you are going to possibly memorize everything. Yeah, these all have different consequences and different advantages. So be careful about how you are going to record the data. Yeah, then interpretation of data is something which you should be prepared about. Okay. Interpreting data from interview is very, very challenging if you are not collecting data in right manner. Yeah, then questions could be open-ended, closed question, direct questions, biased versus unbiased questions. So these are the type of questions you can ask in your interview. You can ask what type of helmet you want. It's a open-ended question. Yeah? Whereas out of these two helmet, which one you prefer? It's a closed-ended question. You're not giving a choice between beyond these two. So open-ended question is like which color of helmet you like. Out of black and yellow, which is the most safest helmet, is a closed-ended question. Direct versus indirect questions. So what makes you most uncomfortable when you use helmet? Yeah, is the indirect question. Direct question is like, do you find it very humid or very sort of like burdening when you are wearing a helmet? Is a direct question. both have different implications. When you are asking too many indirect questions, you have to make meaning out of it. Direct questions will give you straightforward answers. Biased, unbiased answers. So where somebody is responding based on certain bias, or maybe you are asking based on certain biases. Versus unbiased question where you are not taking a context and you are just saying that, okay, answer to this question. So maybe you can show a photograph of an accident site and you can ask a question that how do you feel about non-usage of helmet by looking into this picture. Okay? This is a biased question because you are giving a bias by providing them an image. Unbiased question is like, do you remember any scenario where somebody has met with an accident and that person was not using a helmet? Unbiased question. Yeah. So leading questions and following questions. Question which lead to something which is going to come next. Following is like, which is a follow-up of something. Yeah. So when you're saying helmet, you ask about visor, and this is a follow-up question. Leading question is like, let's talk about helmet, and anything beyond helmet do you think is also important? You're basically leading that person to respond to certain way. Okay. And then last one is probes and questions. You provide a probe and then ask. Yeah? So you give a condition and check whether it works or not. So these are some methods. I'm just going a little elaborate, but keep them in mind. I hope this is useful. Yeah, these are two methods which are very common in entrepreneurial journey. You go and talk to people. You check with them what they really like, what they don't like, what they want, how they find your product versus how they find your competition products, how they feel about the new idea. Yeah, these are the basic approaches to verify your sort of like product or idea validity. Yeah. So helmet scenario, some of the questions which we have already discussed. Then other participatory tools are there. In research, you are not just relying on questionnaires, you're just not relying on interviews, but there are all different methods. You call people in one sort of like place, you ask them to come with their helmet, you check what type of helmet they're using. It gives you an idea, okay, what is something which is popular among helmets users. Okay, you go out and do a survey and try to see how many people in given situation in 1 hour were using helmet and what type of helmets they were using. This is just an observation of doing things. Maybe you give them some tools and ask them to make a helmet. It's basically a workshop or maybe a hands-on activity to check whether people respond in the right manner or not. Yeah. Then there are experimental tools like draw your own helmet, design your own helmet. Can you break this helmet? How you want it to be if you are given a choice? Are all exploratory sort of approaches. Yeah. And then comes the cautions when you are doing research. Yeah. So you should be very, very cautious about how you are collecting data. Yeah, how you are going to interpret data, how you are going to basically make meaning out of it, how you are generating insights. So that way, there are different type of biases, there are different type of responses which are not helping you to come to level. So there are checks where you have to be very, very cautious, and entrepreneurs sometimes go sort of like haywire or go sometimes biased because of their own idea or because of their own approaches in different situations. And many times they find themselves answering to their own questions, yeah, instead of people answering to their questions. So that way we should avoid that situation. So demand characteristics, yeah, user behaving differently is one of the response which you should be careful about. Yeah. So if you are asking certain type of questions, you will always get same type of answer. Do you like my helmet? If you are going to ask your known responders, they all will say yes, and you will feel okay. 70% people have said yes, so I should go ahead with it. So this is a demand characteristic where you are saying that you answer to this only. Yeah, I want this answer to be coming from. Or sometimes you are asking vague questions, and they are behaving differently. Somebody says, okay, I like this helmet. Somebody says, I don't like the color of it. Somebody says it's too heavy. Somebody says it doesn't look safe. So there's a demand characteristic which is influencing sometimes your answers coming from those respondents. Social desirability bias. Sometimes biases are related to certain type of social conditions. You ask somebody who doesn't have money to pay to purchase a helmet, and you will say, okay, do you like 5,000 rupee this helmet or 3,000 rupee this helmet? Yeah. I never want to tell you that I cannot afford more than 1,000 rupee helmet. So in those conditions, I will say, oh yeah, 3,000 is looking good, even though I'm liking 5,000 rupee. But as you have asked me, or I'm not interested in responding in right manner, I'll give you answer 5,000 is the best. Yeah. Many times you ask questions like how much money you earn. Yeah. And many times people don't want to tell you what salaries they are earning every month or every year. Yeah. Then they give you vague answers. You ask them, okay, do you have a four-wheeler? A lot of time people don't want to say that they have a small car or big car or two cars, and they give you wrong answers. So they don't want to be seen in certain conditions. Don't want to tell others that they earn huge amount of money, or sometimes they don't want to tell others that they are earning very less amount of sort of like salary. So that way, the social desirability wants you, like somebody wants to be seen in certain way. Yeah. So you don't want to be seen differently. Is a challenge. Recency bias, influence of recent experiences. If I came across an accident recently, I'll always say helmets are important, even though I'm not wearing helmet. Or I have started wearing helmet and I'm saying no, helmet is very important. I'm conscious about it. I was wearing helmet all the time. So these are the influences because of recent experiences. You give your respondent certain type of, let's say, candy, and which is very sweet, and you ask them question whether you like a sweet candy or a sour candy. Yeah, your response will always be based on that candy's experience. So it's a recency bias, some recent experiences. Sorry. Then extreme responses. Sometimes people just give a disagreement response. They are not interested and they will just give you an extreme response. Lot of time you must have felt that how do you like our service? If salesperson is very pressing, you will give 5 star. Okay, I have given 5 star. Be happy. Sometimes you are moderately happy and you want to punish that guy, you will say 1 star. Yeah? Even though service was moderately good, you are giving 1 star because you did not like the service and you are saying, "Acha, iska to 1 star hi hona chahiye." Do you do this when you're riding a bike or this shared bike or maybe riding a cab? How many times you give 5 star? How many people? Okay, let's do a survey. How many people give 5 star most of the time when they take a cab? Guys, please respond. Otherwise, we'll repeat all the presentation again. Can we have some response? Okay. Shivaram. Okay. Aniket. 5 star. 4 star. Okay. Aniket is saying 4 star. Okay. 5 star. Prithvi says 3.5 max. Oh, Prithvi. If I am a cab rider, I should not be getting customer like you. Okay, 4.5, 4. So 4.5 is not an option, no? Either it is 4 or 5. Aditi 4, Zakir 4. No, Zakir 5. Always give 5. Okay, I always give 5. I sometimes feel like I start talking to people. Usually the drivers are sometimes also bored. And sometimes you talk to them and you end up giving 5 star. Sometimes they are very silent and you also want to be silent and I give them 5 star. Sometimes they're driving good, I give them 5 stars. So I have a lot of reasons to give 5 stars. Okay, 4.5 is your average. Okay, Abhinav, 5 star. Well, so why you guys don't give? How many times you have given 1 star? Rarely. Yeah, you don't want to because a poor guy driving whole day, suffering so much of variety of responses from their riders. I really feel very empathetic to the cab drivers. Yeah. And if in a very special situation when driver is absolutely non compliant, I'll give them 3 or 4 or 2 star. Rarely 1. Rarely 1. 1 is like I should just get down, come out of the vehicle. Yeah, 2 is moderately okay. 3 is decent. 4 and 5 is exceptional. So this is how we take up biases, and you will always find that your respondents are also going into extreme. So be very careful about your friends will never judge your product right. Okay? And they will always be either supporting you extremely or maybe extremely against. So my brother will come and say, or I will give my brother, if he's asking me something, I'll always be critical. Look into this, ye dekh lena, ye nahi kaam karega. Yeah. So I'm not a good respondent for my brother's sort of questions whenever he has a question. Yeah, my friend's questions, I will always support. Okay, good, go ahead. You are doing very good. Yeah, but might not be a helpful response. So extreme responses are very caution-filled responses. You have to be careful. Neutral response, lot of us, and some of you who have mentioned 3.5 star. Most of time we are giving 3 star. It's a neutral. I don't want to be seen on any of the sides. I'll say, okay, moderate, okay, चलता है. 8 points out of 10 वाला जो scale है, उसमें many times we end up giving 8. 8 is a common sort of like number which is picked up in scale of 10. 4 is a common scale picked up in a point in a scale of 5. Because people don't want to be seen on extreme, they want to be seen very neutral. Consensus biases are like usually positive responses. I'll give okay, किसी का भला हो, ठीक है. Dissent bias, disagreement all across. You will say no, wrong, did not do well. Taste was not good, service was also not good, ambience was okay, and price was very high. Yeah, this is a response in a restaurant. Yeah, most of the time I am disagreeing on okay, I do not like your overall service. So that way it becomes a problem for a person. Yeah. So that way we can possibly try out research in this way. I will again emphasize on this part. It's very important part of your journey as you move forward. Basically look into all these areas very critically. When you are seeing research is your fundamental. If you have done a right research, you will basically be able to get to a right sort of a question towards the end, which need to be answered. Yeah, which will be backed by good insights. A good insights, and I'll be talking about insights in next session. I'll tell you about how insights are critical. Insights are not straightforward yes and no. Insights are the deeper meaning which you are making out of your answers. Yeah. So that way insights are the spark. वो bulb वाला जो sign होता है, that is the sign which is insight, which is an idea which flashes in your mind occasionally, and you feel that okay, this is something which I should take up. Okay. So that way, if you have a good research, you will get to good insights. If you have good insights, you will be taking forward those good insights in terms of your creative outcome. Still, we are not talking about innovation in social sector. Yeah, guys, you already must be having great idea about taking it forward, but I'm just talking about how you define your problem, how you define your market, how you take up a right research within that market scenario. Next, we will take up insights. Once the insights are there, if those insights match with your idea, good. If they don't match with your idea, try to improve your idea in the right manner. Because those ideations will lead to the final outcome, yeah, which is the design process usually. Yeah. So look into all these aspects from research perspective. Try to frame your questions right. Try to have your bigger question, overarching questions, or overarching multiple questions rightly placed, so that your surveys, your interviews, your observations, your other exercises of like finding answers to your questions will be much easier and more sorted. Yeah, so that way we are going to work on it. Session next will be basically, I'm expecting that you will come up with the questions which you are going to answer in your upcoming journey. So what questions you are going to take up? Yeah, what are deeper questions you have in terms of all these activities which you have taken up? Let's say in athletes scenario, yeah, where you're talking about maybe the athletes challenge of visibility. What is your deeper question? Yeah. try to frame that question rightly. What question you will really ask multiple number of athletes. So a big deeper question is like, what is your aspiration? And aspirations will have multiple questions within that. So do you aspire something to achieve by doing sports is one question. Or maybe in terms of choice of sport is the key driving factor for your aspiration could be one question, and you can then ask multiple questions based on that. Maybe you can ask question about, do you have insecurities when you are associating yourself deeply with the sport? Is a one big question, and you can have multiple sub questions there. So define those key questions which are emerging from your this thing. And what is going to be your research? Are you going to ask this question straightforward, or you are going to ask these questions through different ways? You are going to go and ask coaches, or you are going to ask the athletes? Is the basically structure or design of your research, and how you are going to get those answers is your quest in the coming journey. So this is how I think questions should emerge. We'll be able to take up few questions before we stop here. Yeah. So guys, please make this exercise very thorough. Put your questions, what questions you are going to ask in 1 or 2 slides, and then what is your approach, how you are going to get answers for that. Okay. So in approach, you can talk about who's your user, which I have already described. What is your given context, the user, and what type of factors which are influencing, and how people are going to respond to it. Yeah. So that way you can present an approach to your research. So here I am stopping my presentation. Do you have any question? Anybody from previous session?
Sir, how could we decide properly that what questions should we place and what questions should we ask and what approach should be needed?
So you should have, Zakir, one basic thing is like you should have a bigger question in your mind. Yeah, that bigger question should be basically the problem statement you have derived in your earlier exercise. To answer that, you must be having multiple smaller questions. So if I want to know why people don't use helmet, I must be having a lot of other questions related to what is helmet, how helmet is designed, how helmet becomes inconvenient, how helmet is basically not chosen by people who really need them otherwise. So these are the sub questions. And out of them, so you write down all the questions which are coming in your mind. Yeah, make use of AI tools. Nowadays, they are very popular, but make use of your own brain also, because you are deeply into the question, and then frame right questions coming from all those list of questions. When you have, let's say, 20, 30, 50 questions coming in, you will find a cluster of questions. Yeah, so cluster of questions means one is related to the design of helmet, one is related to material, one is related to usage, one is related to environmental condition, one is related to the assurance, safety and all, one is related to inconvenience. So that way, those clusters will have multiple questions, and then you can choose from those which questions are relevant, which are not relevant. So it's very basic. Otherwise, it's a very exhaustive exercise. When you exhaust in your question, that means you are actually reached to a level where you should sort out those questions. When you will start sorting out those questions, you will realize, okay, there are some relevant questions and there are some irrelevant questions. When you will take those questions out, you will again find that there are some questions which are emerging and some need to be discarded. So it's a very iterative exercise. It's not just one shot you went out, asked somebody, that person gave a response, you came back and you got your idea. It's not going to happen like that. Yeah. So make list of questions all across whenever you are going ahead, whenever you are coming across new things, make questions and try to look for those answers.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So maybe
Sir.
Apple came up with touch screen phones. Yeah, they were not the first people to take up touch screen for the information input. But somebody must have questioned why we really have a space which is unusable, which is a keyboard where we could have a screen. Yeah, this is one primary question. Second primary question could be how a screen can become a keypad. Third primary question could be how a keypad can possibly be used in multiple situations as and when required. Fourth could be how a screen can be used without keypad. Yeah. And when they must have answered those questions by different surveys, different mock-ups, different prototypes. They must have gone to customers, checked with them, asked them whether you will take this or you will stick with those keypad systems. So that way, it's an iterative process. When you get into it, you will be able to definitely will get an answer. Yeah. Many times when I am saying 95% products fail, those are most of the time, those are the people who are going by their own gut feelings. They're not validating their idea rightly into the market. They're not going and asking their questions, their customers right questions. Yeah. Many times their approach might not be right. And they are just jumping on ideas and trying to make a solution. Yeah. So when we are talking about identifying your right customers, that means which market, which location, which geography, what price, what value, what choices that customer specific is going to make is the question. And if you have answers to this, your product will 100% be successful. Yep.
Okay. Sir, you also tell about the different approaches, right? That and then how would we understand when I have to do research through online or I have to visit and them and do interview? How could we design that process? I need clarification on that areas actually.
So this is, see, as you go out in the market, as you start connecting with your users, as you start discussing your problems with people, you will come across a lot of like ideas about how your large number of masses is present in given situation. Let's say if you are coming across a lot of rural population and you know that your whole audience is sitting in rural areas, you will never be able to reach out to them by using mobile phones or maybe using a online survey. Yeah. So you would possibly prefer to go to those rural settings. You will try to ask questions upfront and maybe one-on-one, and you will try to get answers firsthand only. But let's say you have large number of like audience who are coming from colleges, and those colleges are spread all across the country. In those scenarios, you will not be able to go out to all the colleges in one go, and you will prefer to go online, try to connect with your friends and their friends and their friends, and you will make use of your network, which is basically based on your Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or other digital platform network, or LinkedIn and all. Yeah. So that way you make a choice depending on the nature of the audience and whatever preferences they have in terms of responding to your question. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So that way it's very not very difficult. Don't just go by biases. Don't just go by thinking that, okay, I know I have to go for interview. Go and question whether interview is required or not, whether observation is good enough or not. Observation is like amazing tool in some scenarios. You just go stand in the sabzi mandi, yeah, vegetable market, and see how people are purchasing. You will come across, okay, 50%, 60%, 70% people don't bring their cotton bags or their own bags. They're just coming without having anything in their hands. So this is your observation. You don't need to fill up a survey. Very simple. Yeah, don't need an interview for this. You will see how people deal with sabzi guys in terms of asking for a poly bag. Yeah, this is a good sort of like maybe interview with sabzi seller, yeah, vegetable seller. So you go and ask, okay, do you provide vegetable bags? How many number of vegetable bags you usually spend in a day? Yeah, or you give away in a day. Do you tell people that they should not use poly bag, but you give them? Yeah. So this is very interesting, engaging survey where you are connecting with your end user. Cannot be done in an observation form. So you are asking deeper questions. Okay, what is your feeling about use of plastic bags? I have done this, and 90% sabzi guys or vegetable guys are saying, sir, we don't want to give poly bags, but if we stop giving poly bags, customers will not come to us. So ultimate problem is lying with the customers, not with the vegetable seller, because they are the one who are forced to give them vegetables in poly bags. Yeah. But if you do deeper research, you will realize, okay, there is a bigger network of like poly bag makers and the purchasers and distributors and sabzi guys and the customers. Yeah. So don't fix yourself in terms of like what method you want to use. And as you move forward, derive your own methods also. In design, in our scenario, we make very creative tools. We make interesting activities to get responses. So many times we have to do surveys with, let's say, survey with women entrepreneurs. We were doing extensive survey on women entrepreneurs. And what are their challenges in terms of taking loans? So we made a activity where we asked them to come, asked them to discuss on certain topics. And then while discussing, they came up with the idea of like how family pressure, how their own aspirations, how the challenge of like being less finance sort of like aware, financial awareness, financial literacy is a challenge. So that is a tool which is used by us in some situation. In some cases, interviews work. Yeah. So don't worry. Just understand in what context you are there and who is your real user audience. If that audience is approachable, accessible, responding in right manner, make use of tool which is most appropriate for them. Children will never respond to surveys. They will respond to play. So ask them to come and play on something and ask them questions. Elderlies will not be able to write long statements. So give them some choices. Yeah. Or maybe rural audience will have their own different challenges. So make your tools according to their requirement. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So I would like to mention like insights. We are basically struggling to get insights. Insights are basically the creative sparks or the ideas which are emerging from all these research. The first level of insight is like you have come across one idea and which is helping you to come to this platform. Yeah, this is the first idea of insights. Second insight is like how you solve this problem. Yeah. So if you have got the idea that there is a problem of, let's say, problem of endoparmas, Sahil has mentioned, or maybe problem of waste recycling. I think Sahiti mentioned. Yeah. So these are the creative ideas which have emerged in your mind, but you don't possibly have a solution for it. Or maybe the solution is not most appropriate. Or maybe solution can have multiple other dimensions and you are exploring those. So that way, look for the next insights. How that can be possibly made more viable, more expandable, scalable. So that is your next quest. I'll refer to one person, I think I would say the great researcher in Indian market scenario. You must have heard about Winnie Perfumes, Winnie Cosmetics. Yep. Fog. Do you know the guy behind it? So Mr. Darshan Patel could be considered as, I think, is the person who is understanding human psyche very interestingly. In the okay, we will take up your presentation next. Yeah, next session. Sorry. Yeah. So who is this? I could not check. Somebody messaged, na? So you can make a presentation next time. All right. So Mr. Darshan
Okay,
Patel is behind all these brands, which are like Fog chalta hai. Yeah, no gas. Or maybe before that with Paras Pharmaceutical, he was behind Move, crack creams and all. He has amazing understanding of human psyche. Yeah, and especially the Indian human psyche. Yeah, Indian people, Indian audience. And his way of like touching those human issues in the form of like products is amazing. Yeah, it's like, and this person has defeated big brands, like not big like Indian big brands, but international big brands in a very straightforward, simple manner by bringing in real value into the minds of customers. Yeah, so uh, all perfume, no gas. Here's a simple statement which tells you about value of perfume in 150 rupees bottle. Yeah, and when you realize that there is a thicker bottle which has got all gas and very 20% amount of like perfume inside, he says that here 100% perfume inside a 50 ml, 100 ml, 80 ml, 120 ml bottle. And he's saying there is no gas, only perfume. Or maybe crack creams, or maybe move and all. He has nailed it in a right manner. Just by possibly understanding how his customers in those organizations have been placed and what are their real pain, might have gone to them, understood what type of psyche, what type of need, what type of value perception they might be having, and then coming up with simple solutions like what we are seeing here. So please refer to this. I think he has I think not too many videos, but I'm sharing with you a link. Copy link. Here is a link which you can refer to. Just watch this video, understand how he explains his idea about uh, different products and how he connects with the users. Okay. So that way we will meet again Tuesday. You have good amount of time to possibly work on your assignment, and we'll have maybe around 4 or 5 presentations that day with the presentation which somebody has requested today. And yep. So Tadiba, yeah, Tadiba I think mentioned personally that she want to make a presentation. Yeah, so she will be making presentation. All right, so we are stopping here. Akhilesh, I think we are done. Please share with me the assignments. And the third assignment, I also want it by Monday evening so that Tuesday I'll be able to go through them and then we'll have a comment on those questions and the approaches. So please share with me by Monday evening.